I'm going to get my friend Mike Missinelli on here. And I'm going to play a little bit of over-under with him. And I want to see where he thinks as the Eagles show up to training camp today. First practice is tomorrow. As they go for their quest to repeat as NFC champions, we bring in Mike Missinelli. Big Mike, how you doing, man?
Big Sills, how are you?
How many years is this now you covering the Eagles?
Well, I started as a reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. So, I didn't cover them on an everyday basis, but I was a features writer at the time. So, it's been a long time. It's been since the 80s. So, that's a long time.
So, since Jerome?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely since Jerome. I think I had crossed over to Sports Talk Radio by the time Jerome got there. But, I've been through many eras of Eagle football, like that Reggie White, Jerome era, and then the McNabb era, the Randall era, obviously back then. This is as good a feeling as you can have as a Philadelphia Eagle fan right now as you walk into this camp.
Let me throw this at you. Mike, we had a conversation last week about the owner. We were looking at position rooms, front offices, and I know that you sometimes go back and forth. You said this before on the program about Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles. This is his 30th year going into this 2023 season as owner of the Eagles. You think he's over or underachieved as an Eagle owner going into his 30th year?
Wow, that's a great question. I think most people who aren't as cynical as me think he has overachieved. I think everybody here thinks he's a really good owner. And I guess there's no reason not to think he's not a good owner. I think he tries his best to win. I think there were a couple of misguided years where he trusted the wrong people. And the Chip Kelly era was just a horrendous era in judgment because he just gave up the store. Chip Kelly showed up at his house and demanded X, and he got X. And I was like befuddled by that whole thing. But pretty much he's been pretty wise about this whole thing. And, trusting Howie Roseman at the time I thought was foolish, but he's been proven right on that, I guess.
Do you think Howie Roseman is a better general manager than what Joe Banner was?
Yeah, I think he is, because Joe Banner drew too hard of a line. His money management was sound, and he had the formula of getting guys in and signing them the contracts before he had to really pay them a lot, and he foresaw that. But he was just disliked, and I don't know if players trusted him to that extent. I think players trust Howie. I think that they think that he has the best interest of the franchise at heart, where maybe Joe Banner had the best interest of fiscal responsibility at heart.
Absolutely. The most intriguing player going into training camp for you and getting ready for September and the start of the season will be who?
It's Nakobe Dean for me. And I know they don't prioritize linebackers, but this is a special case. This guy was a very productive college player, but if you try to rate him on an NFL basis, there aren't, what small linebackers really rise to a level where they can almost play at a Pro Bowl level. I don't know if I see that in this game anymore. Hopefully he doesn't have to do that. Like I said, they don't prioritize linebackers. They have other guys that they count on to make plays on their defense. But he's the most intriguing. I don't know if he can play or not. We really haven't had an indication from what we've seen last year whether he can play on an NFL level. And he's being counted on pretty heavily as a starting guy. And they had two pretty competent linebackers last year, and TJ Edwards exceeded everybody's expectations. So there is a standard to uphold. And right now, Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow, I think, if you look at it, are the two biggest question marks the Eagle fans have.
I would say this to you, Mike, maybe the most underappreciated guy a year ago. And if everyone thinks that Nakobe Dean, and I do not think that he's going to walk in there and have 159 tackles and 100 solo tackles, and he's going to replace that. And if you even look back behind him, Marcus Epps may have been another guy that you looked at and went, that guy had 91 tackles. So you're going to try to replace those guys with unknowns. And you're telling me a guy who couldn't see the light of day last year and was a non-factor even on special teams is going to walk in there and have 160 tackles? Mike, I don't see that. I think he's intriguing.
It's a big leap, And you worry about whether, I think teams are going to really try to go right at him and test his size. And like to get around that, you got to be overly quick. I'm not so sure he is that. He's a sound football player, no question about it. But yeah, to me, I'm going to focus. I'm going to have my eyes on that and the safety position. I mean, but here's the thing, Sills. You look at this team and you go, okay, like they're good. We know they're good, and so we're picking at little spots
True.
where they could be a little bit weak, and that's a different perspective on Eagle teams when the rest of the team is really good. They're going to contend. They're the best team in the division. They're probably the best team in the conference, and then we're nitpicking at these little things. But again, it's not unimportant because they have the new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. So all those things will come into play.
How about this, Mike? If Jordan Davis doesn't start this year and he's the rotation tackle and it's Jalen Carter who gets the start next to Fletcher Cox, how do you look at Jordan Davis? To me, Mike, the perfect world is Jordan Davis starts, Jalen Carter starts, and the swing tackle is actually Fletcher.
Yeah.
Because Fletcher, less reps, higher production. We saw that once they got those other two guys a year ago. His game picked up as the season went on once he didn't have to play so much. I mean, how do you look at Jordan Davis right now? If that guy doesn't start this year and he's the rotation guy and he was the 13th pick in the draft.
The thing about it, though, Sills, is that their rotation is really strong. And they don't have to overplay anybody here. They've got 4 solid rotation guys. So, whether Cox starts, whether Jalen Carter starts with Davis, I think they're going to get similar reps. Milton Williams is also thrown in there. So
I like it.
They have 4 guys that they can rotate. And I don't think they'll overuse any of them. And I think that your point's well taken about Fletcher. And I know, and they know it too. So I think they can piecemeal the whole thing.
Mike, how do you think they're going to use Nolan Smith this year? Do you think
very interesting question? He's going to have to show a little something because Sweat. I don't. Sometimes I like him, and then sometimes I don't. So I think they're going to have to get some production from Nolan Smith, or I don't know, maybe out of the blue, Barnett plays well, and they wound up keeping him, and they can bring Nolan Smith along a little slower. But I think it's a good point. I think on that side, with Sweat being inconsistent, I think Nolan Smith's going to have to show him something.
I'm going to go a couple of these over-unders. You tell me what you think here. I'm going to start with Hurts. I got Hurts down for 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 66 completion percentage. These are goals I'd like to see him hit. Interception 6, 165 carries, 750 yards, and 8 TDs. What a lot of Eagle fans look at me and go, he's out of 4,000. That's a weapon. That's a weapon when you look at that. Over under on those numbers, because I say this.
Give me him one at a time then.
Mike, get this. I think if he does what he did a year ago, they're back in the title game. 3,800 passing yards.
Under.
Wow. 25 touchdown passes.
Under.
66 completion percentage.
That's just about right. So I'll give him the over on that.
Push.
Yeah.
Interception 6.
Over.
Wow. You think he's going to take a step backwards?
Yeah, I do, because there's going to be more emphasis on him this year. I think it's going to be harder for him. I think he's going to have the same dynamic effect, but I think that they can like dilute it a little bit with him. And I think their running back contingent, like catching balls out of the back, but DeAndre Swift was such a major get for them. And they have 3 studs catching the ball, and I don't know what's going to happen with the third wide receiver. But I think they can spread the ball around enough where they can overcome the defensive emphasis. Everybody's going to game plan for what Jalen Hurts does. So, I mean, that's the only – I don't think he's going to be lesser of a player. I just think the emphasis is going to be such that those numbers are going to be a little lower.
How about this? Now that you bring Quez up, I'll go there and move down here. Is Quez the number 3 guy? And I say this to you, Mike. If AJ or Devontae get hurt, Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins are not winning the NFC East or the NFC because there's not a lot of depth. The kid from Atlanta could be decent, but I mean, is Watkins, you feel comfortable with him not only catching about 35 passes, but in case that there is an injury in there where a guy's out for a spell, is he the guy?
No. And I hope I'm wrong. And I,
Me too.
this little mini camp they had, everybody was impressed. I mean, come on. Yeah,
Helmets and shorts. That
yeah,
don't impress you, Mike?
I need to see more than that. They said they really worked hard the off season, but that means nothing to me. I mean, he's going to have to show he's going to get a lot of playing time in preseason games. So I think that's going to be a big test for him. And I don't know. Zacchaeus, I don't know what he's going to add. I have no idea what he's going to add. So depending on what Quez Watkins looks like in training camp and these preseason games, they may have to go out and reach out for somebody as a third guy.
You mentioned Swift. Here's the numbers I got for him. I'd like to see him with about 185 carries, 900 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 50 receiving, 450 receiving yards, and 5. I think he's a junior Brian Westbrook / Christian McCaffrey kind of guy. Is that how you see him too?
I was going to just say, that sounds like Westbrook. You're describing Westbrook. Yeah, and the one thing he has that maybe Brian didn't have was the breakaway, knock you dead 55-yarder. And I think you're going to see them spring him for that. I love him. I really do. I think that was just a key pickup. The way he can catch the ball out of the backfield is going to be so key for them.
A.J. Brown and Devontae, you think these guys both are around 1,200 yards again?
Yep. Oh, he's going to stop those two. Really, I mean, if I'm the Eagles, I run 10 of those slants to A.J. Brown a game. I don't even know why they go in. Run the same pattern over and over. You can't stop it. I don't think they run enough of that slant with him.
Absolutely. Dallas Goedert, 75 catches, 900 yards. You think he's in that conversation?
Yes, he is. Absolutely going to take a step up to that this year.
I just think now here a couple more here, Mike. Darius Slay. Does he have a good season, or is he the guy that I think he is? I think he's running out of gas.
He worries me, and I agree with you. And it's funny. I tweeted out something. We got into like a Twitter beef, and unintentionally Twitter beef. He did not have a great second half of the year, and he took exception to that. I don't know what he just played down a
plus
level.
A horrible Super Bowl.
Yeah, he played down almost the whole second half of the year. So he's a guy who I think thinks a lot of himself, and I don't know when you reach a certain age that you should be thinking a lot of yourself. You should be thinking more of sustaining and getting back to that level rather than thinking that the whole world's cheating you out of your due respect.
Jalen Carter expectations for you. I said that I think he could go anywhere between 50 tackles to 7 to 8 sacks, and that's kind of what Fletcher did his first year when he came out of Ole Miss, is that he put those kind of numbers up. Do you think, Mike, again, it's hard to project a college guy until you see him actually in an NFL game, but I as I've told you before, I see a lot of Jerome intangibles, hands, quickness, big ass, all that stuff. I just have really a great expectation, and I think that gamble was worth it.
I like that view. I think the key for him is success early. So he gets some confidence he can play at this level. I didn't see it from Davis. I don't know if he thought he belonged, but I think Jalen Carter has to have early success. And I think that'll springboard him to the numbers that you just mentioned.
One last question on the Eagles, and then I got a Sixer question for you. Okay. Let me throw this at you here with the coordinators. Does it concern you that the last time we saw both coordinators and a head coach, now obviously Nick's not been replaced, but was 1990, and that was the New York Giants when they lost their coordinators. Coughlin went to BC, Belichick went to the Browns, and then Bill resigned in 90, then Ray Handley took over, and it was a train wreck the next year for the Giants under Handley. You got 2 new coordinators in the building. I can't remember where I've seen 2 offensive and defensive coordinators leave a conference championship team at once. I usually see one or the other, Mike, but you got a bunch of new dudes in that coaching staff. Does it concern you?
It does concern me a little bit. It's funny because Eagle fans are not concerned. Like you don't even hear them even mention it. And a longer time, it was an issue when it first happened, but now people are looking at it like it's not even an issue. But I think it is an issue because I don't know if it's an issue on offense because I think he's got so many weapons that I don't know, and he's got such a headstrong quarterback who knows how to play and plays it the right way and is smart and is developing. I don't know if Brian Johnson's going to have any problems. The other side of the football is going to be interesting because as much as they didn't like Gannon, they saw some success under Gannon. And the side plays it a little differently. He pressed coverages a little bit more. He shows exotic fronts. And they may like that at first, but if there's an adjustment period and they're not successful, then you start to question it. I was more comfortable last year in that other system. So I think that's key on the defensive side more than the offensive side.
Mike, here's where I look at it, and I think, again, to me, I think Vic Fangio was the number one option, and I think that Desai is probably the third option, and here's why. So you bring a guy that's only had really 1 year of coordinating in Chicago, and then you replace a Mike linebacker with a guy who had 160 tackles, and now you're going to have no experienced guy at the mic making all your calls for you with a first-year D coordinator with safeties you're questioning. Boy, Mike, it just seems that I think that Vic Fangio thing was a bigger deal. Fangio is now the highest-paid D coordinator in the NFL. You know that? And I'm sitting here going, I wonder if Desai was really their choice or they did this because of default, and that's why they brought Matt Patricia in. Are you tying that in with me a little bit?
Yeah, I am. I'm a little nervous about it too. I look at it and they're such a good team, but like little things like that, the uncertainty of that and getting used to that, because they haven't. The mini camp was nothing. Like they're going into training camp and it's like, okay, that's now we start. And I don't know. There's got to be some kind of an adjustment period. I mean, they may look bad defensively in the preseason, and hopefully by the start of the season. But again, like the talent on this team is too good to be worried about those kind of things holding them down. Like, if I put that in the equation, are they still the best team in the NFC? I would have to say yes, they are. Yeah. On paper, they are. They're certainly the best team in their division. And like, the 49ers, I know the 49ers are gunning, but, they're having, that quarterback situation is very odd for them. So I'm not worried about their success. I'm worried the number is kind of funny at 11.5. I looked at the schedule. I got 11 wins easy. And there's going to be that one game in that killer 6 that they have with Dallas, and then the bye,
Buffalo,
and then
Niners,
and you got the Chiefs. At the Chiefs, Bills and 49ers are home though. At the Cowboys and the Seahawks. So they got 3 of those games are at home. 4 of the games that are home, starting with the Cowboys. They won one of those games that you look at that killer 6 and say, all right, they're going to win this one, even though probably they might not be favored in this game. That gets them to 12. And I don't think anybody else in the NFC gets 12.
Mike, I'm you know what? You and Angelo, to me, are people that I just admire so much. And I can't believe the people in Philadelphia and the media. What the hell are they doing covering the Sixers, man? I mean, they lie to you every day. They lie to you every year. They tell you about this bogus plan they have. They've got a fat guy now in James Harden that is holding a team hostage. He ate his way out of Houston. He moaned his way out of Brooklyn. And now he's telling people he hates it in Philly. I mean, you had Ben Simmons and this guy. What plan are you guys recycling every year? Mike, I don't get why people give that thing the time of day, because at the end of the day, in a city like that, I can't believe it's a train wreck, Mike.
I think most Sixer fans are down on the situation as we speak. I think Maury kind of said that a couple weeks ago.
What's he done, Mike, as GM in the league that makes you go, wow, I'll tell you what, he turned the Rockets around.
They had to take a shot and try to maximize his team around Embiid. They took a shot with Harden. Now, he bails on him, and I don't know where that's going to go. It may have to come full circle, and he may have to play on this team. Now, at that point, do you say, will he play on the team? I always look at a professional guy. It's easy to tank it in Houston and wear a fat suit because you're going nowhere. But when you get and you go, okay, this wasn't my first choice, but here I am back. I got to play for a contract. I'm still playing with a semi-good team. Do I play? And if he plays, is that Harden going to be good enough? I don't think it is, but it's going to be better than hopeless. And at that point, they're going to clear some out. This may be a gap year, Sills, and the fans may have to get used to this being a gap year. But the Embiid thing is going to go on. It has to go on. They have to try to maximize their era around Embiid right now. And if it doesn't work, we all go, well, that sucked. That process was horrible. But there's no other choice for him at this point.
Yeah, but Mike, I would say this to you. There's not a giant market like people are assuming for Embiid. This league's not a 5 guy anymore. There's no pivot guy. You don't build teams around. You build it now on the perimeter. And he has shown he's not a 2-minute guy. With 2 minutes left in the game, I'm not throwing the pill down to him to win me a championship. I saw a guy in Miami, Mike, who took a G League team 2 years out of the last 4 years to the NBA Finals. They're G League guys on that team. Hero wasn't even active,
I don't know.
and he put him in the finals.
I think that's just a specialty of Eric Spoelstra and the way they teach
And
it
Riley.
down the way and the culture and the whole bit. There will be a market for Embiid. There's no question. But he's going to be here forever. The Sixers aren't going to bail on Joel Embiid. They're going to keep trying and trying and trying and trying. Now, I thought the move was that Damian Lillard would be the guy that replaces Harden. And it still might be up his sleeve. You never know how this is going to work out. But if they don't end up with Harden, and they're not going to make a crap deal. Like Terrence Mann and Norman Powell isn't going to be enough to move Harden there. So Morey's going to, just like he did with Simmons. Okay, we're not going to win anything anyway if we get Norman Powell and Terrence Mann. So we might as well just wait this thing out.
So you think Big Sills is crazy when I say hire Bob Myers, move Embiid, and let's build a team like they got in Golden
It might happen
State.
after this year. It's not going to happen now.
You don't see that?
No.
Okay, finally, your Phillies. Are you buying or are you selling?
Oh, I'm buying. I mean, my God, they're a playoff team. The Philly fans crack me up because they get so crazy. Like they're going to make the playoffs. Like they're not going to win a division. Atlanta's a better team. But once you get into that playoff series, as it was proved last year, anything can happen. There's panic going on with the Phillies. They lost a game yesterday, and I get it why they lost. I think the manager overmanaged, had a bad lineup in there. I think this rest is ridiculous. When you have a day off coming, you bench 3 of your starters. You can't do that. But they're still they have 4 decent starting pitchers, and Trey Turner, who's getting just pillared here, is going to. I don't worry about guys like Trey Turner and Bryce Harper.
Kimball's been great too.
Yeah, they all of a sudden forget how to play baseball. Turner didn't forget how to play baseball. It's been a tough transition for him. But at the end of the day, they're a playoff team, and when you get into playoffs, anything can happen. That's the way I look at the Phillies.
Oh, absolutely. I tell people this. Do you know that the Marlins have never won a division title, but they have 2 World Series titles? They've never won the National League East.
Look what happened to the team last year. I mean, the Phillies are at the same pace they were last year. Everybody was down on the Phillies last year. All of a sudden, they get in the playoffs, they turn into a different team. I mean, that could happen again.
Mike, I see why you and him ran that market now. Hey, I mean, at least a little
the
bit
Twitter
of common
battles
sense.
with all these Philly fans. They're freaking out after every game. They've lost 4 in a row. Is that the first team that lost 4 in a row? It was a good team. Relax.
Absolutely. Mike, thank you so much, man. God bless you, and I really appreciate you doing this for me.
All right, Sills. My pleasure, brother. Talk to you.
You got it. That is the great Mike Missinelli. Love him so much, man. Great stuff he always brings to the table. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Keep it here on